Join us for 3 days in Orlando, Florida in March 2026 for an event designed to equip IT professionals like you with the tools, knowledge, and strategies to navigate the ever-changing cybersecurity landscape. Secure your spot and register to join us for 3 days of immersive learning, collaboration, and skill building with hands-on hacking labs and much more. Network with peers from around the globe. Share experiences and learn from real-world case studies, all aimed at enhancing your capabilities as an IT professional. Elevate your experience at the after party. Registration is now open. Register now for Zero Trust World 2026 and take the first step towards a more secure tomorrow.
Good morning and welcome to week 10
Week 10.
of our Failure is Not an Option 100 Days to Secure Your Environment.
Almost there.
Almost there. So you should be getting a much more secured environment. We went through, last week was a lot of recaps and walking through where we should be. And just a reminder, one of the tasks last week was to just review your unified audit every week, see what's happening, see what's being denied, do a simulated deny, do a real deny. It's a general good practice to know what's happening in your environment. Of course, if you've got 50,000 endpoints, you probably have someone doing it on a daily basis. The last week we talked about blocking outbound traffic. So essentially, just a reminder: if you have servers at this point, definitely in your guinea pigs environment and starting to be into your live environment, you should be blocking all outbound traffic from running.
Where feasible.
Where feasible, except that is needed, and the gotchas being the duo. Apparently, the ThreatLocker tray as well, which is
soon to be fixed.
ThreatLocker itself would be fine, but that little pop-up can't actually talk to the internet if you block outbound traffic. Soon to be fixed. And so if you've got any of those processes, you can exclude those. Inbound traffic, we were talking about allowing inbound traffic only where needed and using dynamic ACLs. Just a reminder on those dynamic ACLs, I feel like I'm beating a dead horse here, but make sure you put your non-dynamic policies ahead of your dynamic policies. So for example, let's just say you say, well, I've got a web server that's available to the entire internet and I want to open up port 443 for the entire world. But I want Bob, who's in the IT department, to be able to access all ports on the web server, which is probably not a good idea anyway. But don't put Bob's policy above the allow 443. And the reason you shouldn't do that is because every time someone goes to 443, it's going to validate if they're Bob. And that means it's going to try and connect to ThreatLocker. It's going to check, is that IP address in the database? Is that Bob's IP address? And if it's not, it's going to move to the next policy and allow it anyway. So always put those allow policies
which
first.
Which on a heavy traffic server means a lot of calls, which means a lot of slowness, which means not good things.
So definitely make sure you put the static policies above, but have dynamic policies where you can. Most internal stuff does not need to be open to the whole internet. So Active Directory for your entire orgs. Bob is maybe in the IT department, he's 3389. So you should be putting those in place by now. You can do simulations. You can check what's going to deny. Just a reminder, you have a solution engineer. We do not charge for that service. So you can book a call with them and say, hey, just walk me through this traffic. Help me set these up. And they will help you set that up in ThreatLocker. If you're using another solution, that's fine too. Just make sure that you're blocking all outbound traffic, you're auditing traffic, and you're only allowing inbound traffic for the devices that need it.
Simon's asked a question, which I'm sure you're going to use as a segue, but do policies apply from the top down? Yes.
Yes, policies apply. So policies in ThreatLocker apply in order. Now, I'm going to say a caveat here because there's about to be a change.
Yes.
So they apply if you've got if you're a multi-tenant, so you've got sub-organizations. If you're an MSP or you've an organization that has subdivisions, you have this global group, and then you have your entire organization, then you have your computer policies, and then you have your group policies, and they apply in that order. And
from the top down.
From the top down. So if you go in there and at your organization, you say allow a RDP for the entire organization, which would be a bit crazy, and then you have one underneath that says deny RDP.
You've already allowed it.
You've already allowed it at the top. So they do apply in that order. There is a change coming. It's coming to application control first, where policies can actually apply in any order regardless of the group, and you'll be able to override that order number. But they do apply from the top down. It's just at the moment it hard codes the groups first. It goes in global, org, computer, group. In the new version, you'll essentially be able to say, I'm going to have a group policy that runs before the org policy. And we're doing that across all of our products. We've already done it for Detect and Config Manager. It will be coming for...
It's something that's been long asked for. People want ways of overriding global policies, or I
Yeah.
have this one exception to a global policy, and the answer was always, well, that's what global means. It means everywhere, but coming soon.
You'll be
we
able
will
to
be
say,
able to-
hey, I've got a computer policy that outranks the global or the entire org.
Cool. That's all
Okay.
my questions.
Enforce MFA. You should have some kind of MFA for your logins on your server. We did talk about a reminder that MFAs typically deal with interactive logins. So if you have something like Duo on your server, it's only going to protect you connecting through RDP or
Logging
TeamViewer
into it.
or
Yes.
logging in some way. It's not going to protect if someone connects to a remote registry and redirects those Duo keys to someone else. So just
Or remotely encrypts data.
or remotely encrypts data. So just it's not foolproof, but it does make it a little bit harder. And our goal is whenever we can make an attacker's job harder,
It's a good thing.
it's a good thing. And generally speaking, follow the principle of least privilege where possible. Did I miss the first one? Oh, we talked about being more restrictive of what applications are allowed to run compared to workstations. You can really pull those servers back a lot. The nice thing about servers is
They
if you
tend to not change that often.
yeah, like if we're deploying a ThreatLocker server internally, we actually don't even put it in learning mode because we know we've got the ThreatLocker iOS apps, we've got SQL, which is a built-in app, we've got Windows, which is a built-in app. We're going to block PowerShell, block all these other tools. So
It's not dynamic. It's not going to change that often. So
no, and also if it does block something because you're on the server and you're trying to download something, it's not a user yelling at you. It's I want to download IP scanner. It got blocked. It's a pain. Blocking the browsers isn't a terrible idea either. Again, always making the attacker's life harder.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So let's start on week 10. Talk about hardening Active Directory today, and generally more servers, but Active Directory in general. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about policies and group policies, and I'm going to start off with really auditing policies because inside Active Directory there are a lot of policies that you can turn on to audit additional information, and that information can be used so when you're looking through the event log, if you do get attacked, being able to find out exactly what happened. But it can also get used by EDRs and MDRs and services like that. So we're going to read all of those event logs entries. We're going to ingest them. Most EDRs are going to do that. So the more logging you have, the more data we can see, the better policies, alerts we can create. So really, really important. Now, I'm going to address this in two different ways because we have our guinea pigs group.
Okay.
And I suspect a lot of the people attending this webinar today do not have a guinea pigs group for every one of their Active Directory environments because if there's
They might have a lot.
there's a small environment. So we're going to talk about the higher risk ones and the lower risk ones. If you are a payment processing company that processes millions of payments, you want to make sure this is properly tested because when you turn on more auditing and you've got 20,000, 30,000 logins in an hour, you're going to start seeing a lot of event logs, and that might put extra work on the server. But if you're a small business with 100 users connecting to a server,
you're not likely to notice.
Yeah, it's not going to eat your CPU. So if you go into your server right now and your CPU is sitting at 60%, I'd be conscious before adding more logging. But if it's not, you can probably get away with just turning a lot of these policies on by default. And there's one particular that we monitor for in ThreatLocker that isn't on by default, which is the what's the name of it now? It's the additional auditing. So essentially, we can see what group policies are being created. So I'm going to pull up my screen here.
While Danny's typing his password, if anyone has any Q&A questions they want to throw at us in the meantime. Bit curious how you manage your devices internally. RMM, Entra ID, managing Rob's Mac. Yes, managing Rob's Mac.
Okay.
Probably don't want to go into too much detail, but yeah, we use technically all of those things, really.
Okay, and it depends on whether we're talking about servers or whether we're talking about workstations. So we tend to be, I'm typing this password wrong, or
and just
this is the password.
I suppose officially, my Mac isn't actually my Mac. I don't use it all the time. I unfortunately have to use a Windows machine because I need VMs and stuff that.
Wait there, you have to use a Windows machine because you need,
Yes.
not because Danny makes you, but because you
No,
need VMs.
It used to be because Danny made me, and then we had a or a Mac agent, which was great. But then I realized I had to run all sorts of different operating systems.
So you
That
can't.
yes. Switch the camera to Rob so you don't see Danny mouthing the password.
Somehow,
and
I don't
we know
think.
who that was. It was Zach. Yeah, thanks for that, Zach.
So,
But yes, so this isn't actually my daily driver. I just use this to annoy Danny on webinars, basically. So yeah.
So okay, I have now connected to the machine, and we're going to go through this quicker so it doesn't lock on me again.
Just don't talk so much.
You know, this is a demo machine. There's a place for 64 length random password and
It's not for your demo
with
machine.
special characters, and it's not for the demo machine. Okay, so we're going to go through a couple of things. The first one I want to talk about was turning on. Actually, I'm going to go with getting domain admins that aren't being used first, because that's a little bit nicer. I've got a script here. We're going to share this in the email afterwards. So you don't have to take screenshots or anything. There's lots of different ways you can do this, but the first thing we want to do is.
The password might have been on the screen a second ago.
It was not on the screen. It's on the other screen. So
I see.
it doesn't matter. The machine's
It's fine.
machine's on this VM and locked in the dungeon down here. How do I zoom this in? There you go. So I'm going to walk through what it does. Essentially, this is a quick script we created. Basically gives you the last login of every domain admin on your system. The amount of cyber attacks we see where there's a domain admin who left the company 3 years ago, nobody deleted their account, their password's weak, someone was DDoSing it for a long time. It's unbelievable. So it's a good idea to just time to time run the script, check if you've got unused domain admins on your account. It will tell you their last login and delete them. Simple as that. And if you want, you can even do it for all users. If users aren't logging in, they probably don't need an account anymore.
That's fair. Presumably, we're going to be sharing these scripts.
Yes, on
later.
email. So you don't have to read them. But very, very simple. I mean, I can actually just try and run it now. I didn't test this beforehand, so we'll figure out if... No, I guess I have to put it into a PS1 file because it's copying the line breaks. Oh, it did run. Okay. Okay, so we can see here I've got 3 domain admins. The last login was in 1600.
That's impressive.
So probably John Doe doesn't need to work here anymore. But Jane and the administrator are very, very active. So
does it
tells me
actually
we can
say
go
1600?
I mean, you can see the screen.
Well,
Let me zoom in a little bit.
It's really small.
Can I zoom in on this as well? Look,
Wow.
1600. December 31st. That was one hell of a New Year's party.
That was a New Year's party. Oh, sorry, Zach. Okay, Zach has actually been helpful rather than smart for a change. So he's saying the 1600 means the user is never logged in.
I kind of guessed that. But
Yeah.
maybe.
Thanks for clarifying that, Zach.
So, okay. So, and we've got domain admins. We want to remove John from the system because he has no business being on here. So that's script number 1. Very simple. Clean them up. Do this. Put it on your calendar once a month. Just go in, look at what shouldn't be there, and remove the accounts. And that's actually one of the nice things. I'm not a big fan of compliance, but we go through a SOC 2 audit and a FedRAMP audit and NIST audits and various different audits every year. But one of the nice things about the SOC 2 audit is they make us keep screenshots when we do these things to prove that we actually did them on a regular interval. So it's a nice thing about that audit because it makes me feel comfortable that the guys are doing it because they have to have a screenshot when it comes to the audit of here's the screenshot. It has to show the clock. It has to show the time. I actually did this task. I made sure this exists if it's in the controls.
I'm going to ask something. Should we put these into the community? Can we put these scripts into the community?
I don't think we can put PowerShell scripts into the community.
That's a shame.
But we can email them out.
Okay, fair enough.
I feel like, we can.
Yes.
We can do a remediator script.
Yes.
I forget remediator exists. So remediator is a tool on ThreatLocker that lets you run PowerShell commands directly from ThreatLocker, and we can actually add those scripts into the community. So
I think that would be an
there's a
excellent
task
idea.
with somebody afterwards. So
Adam, best practice: remove or deactivate stale accounts.
Ooh, good question. I think at some point you have to remove them. Generally, what we do is deactivate for a period of time, and then we remove after a longer period. You can't just keep adding and adding and adding and never removing them.
It gets really messy.
A policy of maybe a year after they leave, you'll completely remove them. But deactivate to begin with isn't terrible because we have employees that leave and come back sometimes. Very
few.
Who's your rock star on your team? Rob?
Yeah, that's the only example I can think of. So yeah.
So
George has asked domain admins, enterprise admins, or sorry, he said domain admins, enterprise admins, and administrators. These are the groups that we audit.
Okay, that's
So
exact.
those
And
3
this one
groups
is
specifically.
recursive as well, which is nice. The other one, this one just does all users, I believe. So we'll go into here. I'll just paste this, and it will tell me all users. So I've got a few more users. I've got a guest user account that's never logged in as well. I've got this one here, denied. I guess that's a replication account or something. I've never heard of that before, but I wouldn't delete that if we don't know what it is.
No,
So
probably best not.
gives you a list, export it, decide why you're keeping accounts. It's a 10-minute task every month. It will really help.
Now, you're going to like this one. So Daryl has just said, wait, I can run PowerShell scripts on a protected machine from the portal. Yes, is the short answer.
Only if you've got Remediator.
Yes, exactly. You
No,
need
to
Remediator.
be clear, you can't run the script unless it's in the whitelist.
Yes.
So we doesn't
You can
override
run
the whitelist.
PowerShell commands through the Remediator.
Yeah, for the Remediator, yeah. It has to be in the whitelist still.
Yes.
You
So you
can't-
won't be able to run the script
yeah.
without being whitelisted, but equally,
It doesn't bypass our controls. But if you
Hopefully
have the
that's clear.
Remediator agent installed, you can do that.
yes.
And basically what you get is a tab in the detect response where you can go and you can say, hey, delete this account, do this, do this. It's a really cool
Adam's
feature.
made a valid point, which is deactivate or disable, do not delete. This is for incident response purposes where or when if someone is compromised. Like you said, delete after, say, 3 to 6 months, best practice.
Yeah, okay. Let's go back to here. And this one here is basically showing you everyone, because one of the things we want to do is make sure that there are no accounts without passwords. And apparently John Doe, who hasn't logged in since 1600, has no password either.
Blank password. Ooh.
I'm intrigued to know what this account is here.
I'm assuming Kirby. Oh, Jody has already answered that question, which is Kirbyos ticket granting ticket account.
Okay, I will say something. I've never heard of this before,
No,
but I
neither
did
have
my
I.
Active Directory before read-only domain controllers existed, so I'm a little bit out of date
And
on that.
Glenn has said that is required for Kirbyos, and Hadas has said, but don't deactivate it; it will break your AD.
The one thing I will say though is be very, very careful about assuming something that's got a nice description is a good account, because
is true.
attackers are really, really good at putting things in like backup account or this account is used for XYZ, and that makes you feel like, oh, this is important.
This needs to be here.
So go and research it before you don't delete something too,
Mm.
just because it has a nice description saying this is really important.
It's already a disabled account. It also needs
so-
regular password rotations. Pen testers call me out on this regularly.
So I actually just misspoke. This is not blank passwords. This is actually no password policy applied to them. And there's a reason I asked for this one to be included as well. Password policies. Okay, so I remember working on a ransomware case once, and essentially someone had got in through a scanner account, and the scanner account was set 20 years ago, or maybe not 20 years ago, but and it was.
I've actually seen that happen as well.
And it was just something like scanner 123. And the problem is when we think about passwords today, we think about relatively strong passwords, not maybe as extreme as the one on the screen here, but relatively secure passwords. When we go back to 2008, it was okay to say Max123 or whatever the dog's name is as your password. So making sure that the password policy applies to all the accounts. If not, at least go and rotate those passwords manually. Scanners are a big, big problem. So this actually shows you the ones that doesn't have a password. And what that means, if I go into Active Directory here, and we're going to go into our users, we'll go into John. Who was John Doe? Didn't have a password.
Okay, Hadras seems to know an awful lot about this KRB
Erebus.
yes account. It needs to be reset at least once every 6 months. The process itself to reset it twice within 10 hours between the resets.
Where's the? I'm running out. Okay, here we go. Password never expires. This is basically telling you their password set to never expire. So reset it. Make sure the scanner gets it updated as well if it is a scanner account. So, okay, they're the first 3 scripts.
Do some reading on that thing before you do anything with it. You can break everything if you don't know what you're doing with it. Everyone seems to say, yes, don't delete it or disable it. You will break everything.
There is an admin password on that thing too.
Ryan said, don't reset the password back to back or you'll break all tickets. This is done if your golden ticket gets breached, though.
Okay, be very careful resetting that password.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go down to here. There is an admin password. I don't know if it's this one, but it's no one's logging into this anyway. It's a VM on this isolated Zero Trust Ward machine, which will probably still be on there during Zero Trust Ward next year. Okay, so let's talk about other things. Auditing. This is the one that's really important. This is going to give you a whole bunch more information in your Windows event logs. Of course, it's very, very hard to read information from the Windows event log and go, oh, we've been breached. But if you've got a good EDR, it's going to read it, it's going to ingest it, it's going to tell you which are the things you need to worry about. It's going to
relevant
combine scores together. And this one is important because it will tell you things like has someone created a group policy? One of the biggest ransomware attacks I saw was group policy being pushed out via GPO. Someone gets into your group policy, they push out a GPO. Ransomware on every machine. Of course, if you don't have whitelisting, if you don't have control, suddenly every machine in the organization is encrypted. I remember working on one company, it was a 9-month recovery to get that back up and running. So that's not a good thing to have. So we want to know if someone creates a group policy and you want your SOC or your MDR to respond to that and say, hey, someone just created a group policy. Are you aware of this group policy? And if they're not, then go and look at it.
Something's going on.
Something's going on. And
Well, if you didn't do it, it's probably an indicator of compromise.
I would rather be woken up in the middle of the night by someone saying, hey, I've got an alert. There's a group policy in your domain. We don't know what it is. Than being woken up or going into work
a little bit later in the night or early in the morning saying, hey, you've been hit by ransomware.
Yeah, so it gives you a few more audits.
Fair.
If you're changing group policies, you should be putting an alert, should be a ticket, there should be some kind of relevance to know that this is happening. But so what we're going to do here, we're going to go into group policy editor for those who don't know. So I'll go right from the beginning, go into group policy management. We can do that straight from the start menu if you're not a big active buff. We can see various group policies here. This is the domain group policy, and we have them all open in the right place, but we can see here, I'm going to share these afterwards so you don't have to take screenshots, but essentially we can go to the domain controller's policy. So if I go into policies here, what domains, forest, I'm in the wrong place. Default domain controllers. No, I'm in the domain controller policy, that's right. So we're going to edit the domain controller policy, and I'll go back to the original page so I can show you how to get to that. Group policy management. Nope, wrong one. I've got too many windows open here.
I'm going to answer a question here. So anonymous attendee has asked, if you missed a webinar because of vacation, do we still get a t-shirt after completing the 100 days? No, you do not. Vacations are socialism. Only joking. Yes, I'm turning into a
Florida
flag-waving American now. I'm sure we can make an exception for your vacation. Okay. Anonymous attendee is also asked, so I'm presuming a different anonymous attendee is all, how many of these settings can we set in configuration manager? Not everyone has GPOs.
Okay, and I'm going to talk about those that can be set in there. So if you've got domain controller, you have GPOs. So this one is this is the default domain policy, and I've got so many tabs open here. I'm going to, hey, group policy management, there we go. This is the default domain controller's policy versus the default domain policy. So if I edit the domain controller's policy, which I did, I've now got that open in one of these many tabs. I need to default domain policy. How many tabs do I have open here? Domain controllers policy. And then if I go into Notepad++, because I'll show you exactly where that is. And again, we're going to send these out so you don't have to take details, but you can go into computer configuration policies, Windows settings, security. So I go computer configuration policies, Windows settings, security settings, and switch back to my Notepad++. And we're going to go to Advanced Audit Policy Configuration, DX Access. So it's not easy. And then Audit Policies, and then DS Access. And what we want to set on here is all of these to enable audit events on both. This means all of these changes are going to be logged. It does create more logs in your event log. So if you've got 20,000 users logging on, don't do this without some kind of testing and risk analysis. If you've got a smaller company, you can probably turn it on and it's not going to blow up your service.
Hadas has asked, people get t-shirts, ? Yes, they do.
At the end of the webinar series.
At the end of the webinar series. Christopher said, Danny needs to learn to use Alt-Tab to switch between apps. Ooh, sick burn. Now, here's a really interesting one. Glenn Baker, can we block creation of GPOs in storage control and not break the domain in the process?
You can't block creation of GPOs, but you can block access to, well, there may be an innovative way of doing it.
Could you though? I reckon you might be able to.
Because where does it say? It saves those files in the sys file.
Yes.
You may be able to block the write. That's a research project we're going to go away. I feel that's for the special projects team too.
Danny's not sure. I think probably yes. We'll get the big brains to go and check that out, Glenn, but I suspect that we probably could.
And that would actually be more, well, I don't think it's bad. This isn't blocking them, this is auditing them. So first of all, we should audit regardless to whether we block. Because if someone's trying to create it and it's failing because it can't write to disk, then that's good because it means you're winning because it's failing. But you still want to know someone tried to create it so your EDR and your MDR can start calling and yelling at you.
Jody's made a valid point, which is you shouldn't be editing the default domain or domain default domain controllers policy. They function as baseline policies. You should create a new policy and apply them at a higher priority.
That's not untrue.
That is not untrue. Jody, thank you for that.
Okay. And the LDAP, and I'm going to do the same with the default domain controller policy. Computer configuration policies, Windows settings, computer settings, security options. So let's go into this one, into the domain policy. Again, we can create a new policy and apply it. However, no, now maybe I'm wrong about this, and maybe it's changed because it's been a while. You cannot set a password policy outside of the default domain policy.
Oh, somebody's going to Google that sitting in front of us here and
Figure out
confirm
if
or deny.
I'm correct. I think the only way you can make a password policy work is in the default domain policy. I took my MCSE in 2000, and Active Directory has changed very, very little since then, so it's possible it's changed.
Craig said there are certain settings you can only set in the default policies, like password policies.
Craig, see, my memory's not terrible.
Your
I mean,
memory
from
is not terrible.
2003 or 2002. So, okay, so next one is we're going to go into the default domain policy, and we'll fix this one. Okay, so we're going to go into computer configuration policies, Windows settings, security settings, local policies. So computer, oh look, this one's already selected for me very kindly. And the one we're going to put on here is that LDAP, enable LDAP signing requirements. This is really, really important. It might break things, by the way. So this one you should be a little bit more careful of the audit one. If you've got old computers, if you've got unpatched machines, they may not be able to log in on this. Microsoft has very kindly put an article here that tells you all of the considerations. It's not what Microsoft tell you that worries me. It's all of the stuff that's authenticating that you don't know about. Mostly if you're running anything above Windows 7 patched, you're not going to worry too much. But this essentially prevents someone listening on your network, grabbing the packets and replaying those LDAP authentications. So go into there, turn this on. But again, smaller business, tell people you're about to do it. Anyone's got any problems, call me. Obviously, if you're providing healthcare services to people who are on life support, be more
Tread
careful.
carefully.
If you're dealing with an insurance broker or something like that, and the users are okay with, there's a very small risk here. It's going to improve our security. You might just want to put this on and say, hey, this is going to happen. If anyone's got a problem, let me know. We'll test on a few machines. Do it in the evening. Make sure everyone can log in at least before the end of the day. But this is quite an important one as well, because it does allow someone on your attacker to capture those logins and potentially replay them. Okay, event log settings. This is really setting the retention policy on your event log. So again, go into Windows domain policy, and we're going to go into...
Zach has said if people are on life support and the machine keeping them alive is running Windows 7 or older, there are other problems.
You know, we work with a lot of hospitals and a lot of those medical devices.
Windows XP.
Windows XP. So just in case anyone feels like getting sick recently.
Yeah.
There are a lot of medical devices still running Windows XP and roller coasters. Okay, so computer configuration, Windows policies, event log source. I'll go into this one as quick as I can. Windows settings. Oh no, this is administrative templates. I wish you could copy and paste into the header bar like you can in the registry now. Windows components and event log source. Will it let me even? Oh, it does let me do that. We can go into here and we can actually set settings. The ones you want to pay attention to is maximum log file size. I would put it as big as possible as your disk can handle. I didn't know about this setting until now, actually. Backup when full. That's a really good one.
That'll be useful.
Configure log access. This one prevents... one of them prevents the guest account from being able to access it. If you enable a setting, only users matching the security descriptor can access it. So restricting access is always good, because if someone gets on a machine with a lower privilege, you don't want them to be able to do it. And maybe this is the one for the guest account. You must set... Okay, maybe that's not. I thought one of them was a... Policy setting controls the event log behavior when the machine reaches its maximum size. If the policy is enabled, new events are not written. We definitely want to... If it's disabled, new events are written. So definitely want to enable new events. Remember, there's lots of different logs here, not just one. And apply the setting to all of them. Okay, disable SMB. We went through this last week. Here's the command. We may have already shared this. Disable multicast DNS. I'm told by Kieran he's going to create a video and a blog post on this, showing how you can actually
Ooh.
capture data on the network if you have multicast DNS and potentially steal credentials or at least hashes thereof. I'm yet to see it.
I to be honest, I believe Kieran.
I think we should make him do it live at Zero Trust One next year.
Ooh.
So,
Pressure.
but I'm not going to go drill down. But essentially, we can turn off multicast DNS. It really has not a massive amount of value, and it helps. Time sync. You should have your clock synced. It's actually a big problem because we see quite often attackers trying to change the time to change the policy. So we actually had a problem with ThreatLocker in the early days where you'd have a maintenance period and they'd set the clock back to the maintenance period to be. Can't do that anymore, by the way. But we'll often see clocks in the future. So we also had another problem where we'd see events coming from 2 days in the future. So now we have to stagnate that. We do a lot of stuff trying to sync our logs with the real time.
Yeah.
But make sure you have time sync on your servers so the logs are accurate when you're debugging something. It's easy to find because if somebody sets the clock back 3 days and then you're looking at this span of windows for diagnostics,
Something has happened.
Something's happened. So making sure time sync is enabled is really important. Deploy LSASS protection in Windows 2000 and Windows 10. I think
Server 2025 and Windows 11 22H2 and above.
I thought Windows 10 had it as well.
I don't think so.
Okay. If you have ThreatLocker agent, we enable it by default.
Can be done, but it's not enabled by default in Windows 10.
This essentially prevents applications from accessing protected memory unless they are digitally signed by Microsoft. So as a vendor, as a security vendor, we have to send our code to Microsoft, or at least our PDP file. They have to scan our code, they check it, and they say, this is good, here's your signed driver, and you can now access protected memory. Applications that can't, if this is enabled, won't be able to access that protected memory. It's enabled by default on newer operating systems. ThreatLocker enables it by default unless you set an option to disable it. It is recommended you do not set that option. There are some old ATM machines that have to have it set, I know of, but this should be enabled by default. We'll share the registry key to do this. It is actually a config manager. Well, actually, it's not config manager policy because we enable it by default, but we'll share the registry key as well to do that. You can also Google it.
So Greg is obviously a smart ass. He said it's mistyped there as protetion.
Oh,
protetion. Yes, Greg, protetion. Thank you.
There you go. And password rotation, the big topic that everyone's arguing about. We should do a poll. I don't know if we can do a poll of what people think. The NIST's standard on this is you should not require password rotation. And their argument is the password should be secure with dual factor, which you should have. I agree that password notation is not necessary and it forces someone to use weak passwords or to write down their passwords, which is not
untrue.
Not untrue. The Australian SMB 1001 or 1001 actually has a completely different opinion where they said you should rotate your passwords because at some point your password's going to be available on the internet because people do reuse passwords. So if you go out onto the dark web, you can buy password dictionaries, and now you're doing a dictionary attack on 1,000 or 100,000 passwords as opposed to potential billions of combinations of text. I would tend to agree with that. You should have password rotation. Even if it's once a year, it means if something gets out there and it's in a dictionary, it makes it a lot harder. Someone's going to change it. Also, what was a secure password in 2005 is no longer a secure password in 2025. So if you have no password rotation, they may be running really, really weak passwords, but interested to see your thought.
No, I don't disagree with you. I mean, look, there's a whole new approach coming along with things like passkeys, and I mean, Microsoft themselves even seem to be largely deprecating or depreciating passwords. I mean, I can't actually remember the last time I had to put in a password on a live account, for example, because it's all pop up in your authenticator app rather than actually having to type in a password. So,
that's true, but when we're thinking about Active Directory, that's not the case.
Well,
you've got SMB
true.
shares that are, and think if you get someone with a password for an SMB share, they can now encrypt files. So
no, I mean, I think something reasonable. I mean, too often is probably unreasonable and will encourage people to write passwords on pieces of paper beside their computers, which is not a good thing. not often enough will encourage things like scanner with scanner 123 as the password. So somewhere between those two, there is probably a happy medium.
So, question then. So, what's more secure? A strong password written on a piece of paper in a private office, or a weak password that isn't written down on the internet?
The former, not the latter.
The stronger password, because
Yes.
and obviously, if your coworker decides to steal your password, you're in trouble. But
Yeah, true.
so also there's
Ben agrees with me. Paper.
yeah, I would and interesting enough,
Now, Jody, a weak password with MFA is more secure than a secure password, though.
that's true.
That is
But
true.
MFA on Active Directory is really useless.
Yes.
Unless you're using a third-party component, you've got SMB access, remote registry access. All of these things it's very, very difficult to implement proper MFA on Active Directory.
Zach, yes, paper beats rock, but scissors beats paper.
Okay.
Fair.
Okay. They are the templates. So questions.
Oh God. Ryan, with things like Windows Hello and FIDO keys, passwords aren't really ever entered to get into a session, and your SMB shares are using session tokens and not interactive logins.
True. So if you're using Windows Hello, but the problem is if your password is weak, someone without Windows Hello can now connect to. So the fact that you don't have to enter your password is not. So that makes an argument that it should be rotated more and stronger because you're not having to enter it. But
I also have doubts about Windows Hello. I think it's too easy. The whole face recognition thing. So when I get a new phone, I have to do all this, and I have to make faces, and I have to turn my. It's got like 3D-ness. Windows Hello, it just takes a picture, and so that's fine.
that's not true. There's multi-level camera in there.
It's way too fast.
It's because it's faster than an iPhone.
No, I disagree. Now, this is probably going to turn into World War III in the Q&A, but I feel better.
So what you're
about-
saying is if we use the Apple camera, it would be more secure.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so you have to roll your head around to get the initial image.
Yes.
But you don't have to roll your head around to authenticate your initial image. So it's just taking a picture and authenticating.
No, it's got all sorts of magic going on in the camera on a Mac.
It must be 'cause
I
it was
don't
made by
believe is
Apple.
present in that.
Okay.
Yes, Dave Barnes, Rob, we need a special products team to test the Windows Hello facial recognition. Done. That sounds like a project they should undertake to prove me
let's
right.
put that as a Zero Trust Wall project where we try and bypass it with a 3D mask of Rob.
Cool. Actually, that would be very cool.
So we see if we can.
The good thing about a 3D mask of Rob is you don't need to have any hair or any of that stuff to complicate things, so it should be pretty easy.
So that's going to be a Zero Trust Wall project. We're going to see if we can bypass Face ID and Windows Hello.
Jody, fair point. Make sure you don't use the same pin on everything. Malcolm, I'm not going to read out your comment because it says Danny is right. Craig, you need a special camera for Windows Hello. Basic camera won't work. We have tried. Yeah, but there's degrees of specialness.
If I put an Apple logo on it, would it make you feel better?
Yes.
Okay.
Definitely.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got now the pin is a bigger issue because now what's concerning about that? Am I wrong in saying this? If someone gets onto your machine, say they're using Screen Connect or TeamViewer or some kind of remote access tool that you've got on your machine, can they put your Windows Hello pin in?
I think so.
I actually haven't tried that. We need to test that as a.
I'm very sure, yeah, because if it can't recognize your face, it says other options. One of the other options is a pin.
And I normally use the pin. So
Simon Davies, with Windows Hello, you can enable multi-factor unlock so that it needs face/fingerprint plus pin to log in.
That's a good thing. We should turn
That
that.
is
Okay, we're going to put that
interesting.
into the 100 days.
Yeah,
if that's
I
true.
think that's a good
We
one.
can validate that we can turn that on. Okay. Any other questions, Rob? Or we just finish early?
Yeah, again, other people, you can enter a pin when connecting remotely. Pins can be entered through Screen Connect. What about Windows running on Apple using that? Yeah, no, that's an abomination. Pins can be entered with Screen. A lot of stuff about pins. There was something interesting about. Yeah, didn't NIST change their stance on password rotation and remove it as a best practice? I
They
think
did. That's what. Yep. That's.
yes.
That's the whole debate is. Do we
and
believe the federal government or not?
Well, Michael
Because
said earlier on, NIST says indicator of compromise is caused to rotate, and people absolutely use the same password in business computer for personal use, so I enforce rotation. That's a valid point. I mean, people shouldn't use the same password on business computers for personal computers, but
that doesn't mean they don't.
Michael's assertion is that they do. Jeremy, be careful when using biometrics to log in, as you have to get the user's permission via HR policies, or it turns into large lawsuits.
Especially in Europe. So, did you know in some countries in Europe, you have to, when we're dealing with one very large customer at the moment, and they have to get essentially the union to agree to enable security software.
Nothing would surprise me.
So it's now I don't know if that's the law or that's their company policy that the union has to agree with. It's never pretty.
That seems it seems unwise, frankly, to not be able to make decisions about what's best for the security of your organization.
I agree.
You could argue maybe consultation. Hey lads, we're doing this. Might not be a bad idea, but
I mean, people should know.
Them being able to say no, you're not going to secure yourself seems really unwise.
We don't want.
Adam, Rob was about to mention socialism. Yes, Adam, I was, but I didn't. If they're good enough to hack into your system, oh my god, and have a copy of your password, then they don't even have to type it in. There's a built-in copy paste and screen connect to allow MSPs to copy and paste lengthy passwords. That's fair.
I could have done with that today.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, Michael. I'd asked a question earlier about being out on vacation and missing a day and getting a T-shirt after completing the 100 days. I think we said we would make despite the fact that that's socialism, we will give him a T-shirt despite having missed.
I wasn't on vacation for 2 weeks.
You completely were. And by the way, I think technically I've been here in person, present for more of these than you have.
Okay, we'll go with that.
Yeah. Forcing password rotation is not as good as forcing better, longer / complex passwords. The larger the organization, the larger the friction will become from frequent password changes, i.e. help that support lockouts from forgetting new password, etc. So longer and more complex is better.
That's one thing we didn't cover. When you set the password rotation, lockout, I think the challenge with lockout is when you have publicly facing servers, people can now essentially take your account offline. But for most people, they don't have publicly facing services.
Well, no, they're not talking about lockouts. They're talking about password complexity rather than...
But both of those are valid. Lockouts are a really, really good idea when your server isn't facing the internet. When it's facing the internet, it's a really bad idea because somebody can just lock your account out and then you can't log in, which is a real pain. I wish Active Directory was smart enough to say I'm going to lock out a source IP address as opposed to a user account, but they don't. They lock out user accounts. But lockouts is a really good idea. Complexity is really important as well. The problem is with complexity is we can enforce in Active Directory, and we'll share the group policies for this at the end of this. We can enforce length of password. We can enforce, does it require special characters, uppercase, lowercase numbers? What we can't stop someone doing is typing password 123 exclamation point. Now, I know there's some filter drivers you can install that will allow you to blacklist a certain list of passwords if you like. But it's very, very hard to stop someone putting a really basic password like Ringo 123 exclamation point.
It's difficult, but not impossible. I mean, the complexity requirements in Windows seems to work reasonably well.
No, a lot of users will go back to the old. Some of that comes down to user training too, and dual factor where we can. If something's facing the internet, it's very hard to enforce dual factor on an internal Active Directory, but it's not hard to do it on internet facing.
Speaking of which, we did mention earlier, but we haven't got back to a lot of the things that we're talking about you can do with Configuration Manager.
Of course, sorry.
So in environments where you don't have access to Active Directory, you've got lots of different Active Directories.
So we pretty much if we don't, we're going to go and set these up as well. So SMB version 1 is in Configuration Manager. Multicast DNS is in Configuration Manager. Event log sources, I don't know if it's in Configuration Manager. Signing requirement on LDAP, is it in Configuration Manager? Do we know? No,
I mean, if they're not,
we can add them.
we can add them.
So,
So assume that they will be in Configuration Manager in a reasonably short amount of time.
so you can do it straight from there, and you don't have to worry about going onto all of your domain controllers
Yeah.
in one place. So again,
Or if you're an MSP, you don't need to log into 100 different Active Directories to make these settings. Or
but if you're an MSP, equally don't put 100 of them out at the same time. So,
probably unwise.
Do some kind of slow. We do everything we can. There was a Windows update recently that's caused some problems. So if you are using ThreatLocker and you noticed on 10.1 or above, you've had some slow login times. It's Microsoft botched update. It's killing.
They
not
actually
just ThreatLocker.
they botched the update that was to fix a botched update. So they basically double botched updates.
So and we put a workaround.
By the way, somebody who mentioned this on the webinar last week, who we got on a call with subsequently, did point us in the right direction as to which update it was. So
we have the update, but we also have
thank
a
you for that.
workaround or a fix, whatever. And it's causing various software to hang up. But worth noting, while most of these changes are very, very low risk, there's always a risk. So where you can test it on your guinea pigs, where you can't test on your guinea pigs, take it slow, explain to the users, this is important, this is why we're doing it. And TLEV50 .50 is 50X, but is for auditing GPO on community as well.
Anonymous attendee has said, word of the day, double botched. And I replied with, I was going to go with botched squared, but it is more double botched.
Okay, so we have 10 minutes, so we're going to finish up early today. Just a reminder, use that 10 minutes to go and do an audit, unless you've got a question.
I do. I've got more questions. We've got lots of questions. We always have questions. Jody, does Configuration Manager have the ability to set default local administrator passwords similar to how LAPS does it?
Yes. ThreatLocker Labs, T-Labs.
T-Labs, Jody. Yes, we have T-Labs.
And you can see them. Actually, I'll show you that directly in the portal here. So I'm just going to jump into...
Interesting, George. The time sync has got me curious. Can we do a detect to find when the time is set by the user? I would say probably yes.
I think we already look for it. We don't create an alert necessarily, but I think we actually
already
already look
detect could.
on an informational. But yes, on detect, it's a Windows
You can
event
do it with
log.
detect.
Will in detect you could create a policy, and if
Andrew, is there any information on that Windows Update issue available on ThreatLocker's KB or website, or could I ask a cyber hero for more info? It is on the KB.
the cyber heroes have a KB on it.
It's under known issues.
It's unfortunate. It's not just ThreatLocker. It's the other big security tools are having the same.
Tools had similar issues. Yes. Glenn Baker, it would be cool if we could add our own registry keys in Configuration Manager. That's an interesting one. I mean, it would be easy to break stuff.
I think where we are a little bit nervous about that is it's becoming, we're trying to avoid becoming an IT management tool that makes us the security vulnerability. So if you add a run once tool, registry key, for example, because someone gets into your ThreatLocker account.
That is fair.
So I think that's where we're limiting it to, hey, these are the security best practices. But if there's also ones missing, you can come and tell us, hey, there's ones missing. I think we should have this, and we're more than happy to add them for you. What was I showing on this side?
Configuration Manager, maybe. Oh, T-Labs.
T-Labs. Oh, that's what it was. Okay, so in T-Labs, there are a few areas on administrator passwords. We have local administrators here, which will show you. We have policies to remove local administrators automatically. Remember, be super, super, super careful about this policy. We've had too many companies wipe out all of their admin accounts without realizing they were doing that. So if we go into policies on Configuration Manager, we can set a policy that says, do I already have one? ThreatLocker administrator
password system, aka T-Labs.
So, and this basically says, how long do you want the password? How long in days do you want it to be rotated? And pretty much it does that. And then once it's done, if it's reset a password, you will have a cool little icon here that will show you the last known password for that device.
That's quite cool. George, I'm going to show my age here, but George has said T-Labs is dope. We use it to rename local administrator, then we rotate that password.
That is a really cool feature as well. Just rename your local administrator.
Question, dope is... In Ireland, if you call somebody a dope, it means they're a really stupid person. Is that...
No, so everything...
So dope is now good, correct?
I think it's an age thing. Everything that's bad is good. So sick, dope, bad is all basically means good.
That is an interesting way of looking at it.
Just reverse it.
Okay, so in future, yeah, so dope is good. Yes, T-Labs is dope.
I think the word in Ireland, dope isn't inaccurate, but it tends to be dose.
No, dose is also used. Dope is more widely accepted.
Okay.
Um, sorry, George. Synonyms, awesome slang, excellent, fantastic, red slang, radical slang, sick slang, primo. I've never heard primo.
Be careful
Tight.
what you're reading.
Yeah, I probably should. No, well, actually,
I
that's
don't know what we're going to
okay. Yeah, I better Google that myself. George, I'm trusting you here.
Yeah.
Can the password, here's a question, Jason, can the password, or presuming is referring to TLAPS, be synced to a password manager?
Not inside ThreatLocker natively, but you could always use the API. And you could pull it out and sync it into your API.
And James has asked as well, is there an IT glue integration to store the rotated passwords?
Okay, so it may sync automatically. I just said no, but IT Glue has an integration, and I don't know is the answer if it syncs it. If it doesn't, that's definitely a feature we should request from the product team.
I have. Oh, hang on.
Hint, hint.
Yeah, no, sorry. So I thought it was a question about something else. Rob is Ron Burgundy and will read whatever's on the prompt. That came from Dennis. Now, Dennis, I'm going to hold that against you. But yes, Rob is Ron Burgundy and will read whatever's on the prompt. George, I don't think you guys do put the info into IT Glue. Presumably, again, passwords.
Who's in the product department that can help with that?
I don't know. Anyway, yeah, I think that's all. I mean, there are many very intelligent questions and comments, but I think that's pretty much all of the. George, different George. Regarding storage control policies, to restrict access to a server network file share, UNC, to specific usernames, does the storage policy hit the client workstation or the file server hosting the network share? In other words, does ThreatLocker need to be installed on every client or only on the server to restrict access to the share?
Okay, so there's a couple of points there we'll get into. So first of all, if you create a storage policy on a client side, so I'm going to go into my workstations and say I've got my server here, and I want to permit access to server. I can go into here and I can say I only want to allow Bob to access it, and I'm going to say I want to allow read and write, and I only want him to access server 1, share 1. And I put a star at the end of there, click add, and I only want it to be able to be accessed from explorer.exe. So I'll click add there. So this is running from the client side. So this basically says I know the process that the client's calling from, I know the share name, and it's in that format, and only Bob can access it from the client side. Now, if someone goes to an unprotected device, they would be able to connect to the server and see it from the server side. So on the server side, what we'd do is would say, and we also want a network policy to stop an unprotected device, but we can also set policies on the server side. So on the server side, we're going to say restrict share 1 to only Bob. Now, bear in mind, I'm now looking at it from the server, so I'm not / share 1. I'm saying my local folder. I can't do programs because I don't know the program the client's using, but what I can do is say my local folder is share 1, and this is going to restrict it. So to answer your question, yes, you can set a policy on the server side, and this will restrict only Bob from accessing this policy. However, a couple of things to note. You actually need a license for the client anyway. We pretty much follow Microsoft's licensing model on that, so you probably should have it. You can't see the program that's running it from the server side, and this isn't going to stop a piece of ransomware accessing it if it's running on the Bob. So you should have it on both, but you can set policies on both sides. And it's a good idea to set policies on both sides as well. There is a feature here. I thought this had been hidden. I don't like it. This from the server side will make sure that they're running ThreatLocker service.exe. It's a Microsoft feature. It's part of SMB. It basically checks that ThreatLocker service.exe is running. It doesn't check that it's not restrict. It's a little bit of a thing. It's also buggy, and it's not ThreatLocker side that's buggy. We're just requesting the information from Windows.
APIs, yeah.
So I don't particularly care for this, but what I will say, what did I miss? Please fill in all fields. I filled them in.
Oh, you need to click on plus beside Bob.
Oh, yeah, great. Okay, so definitely, you can do it from the server side. Very useful when you're actually setting and if you wanted to set a process on the server side, so only the backup software, that will work because it's only on the server that the backup software is running.
On Configuration Manager, Adam has asked a question. Apologies if this was already answered, but do the changes in Config Manager stick even after the ThreatLocker agent is removed? Are they permanent or temporary, or are they just applied when the machine is communicating with the TL console?
No, they stick. We're essentially making a change on your system. And worth noting, if you deleted this policy, the change still sticks. So when you go into a policy, if you wanted to change this back, you'd actually you have 3 options here. Enable SMB version 1, disable SMB version 1, or set the policy is not configured. When you set the policy is not configured, it basically leaves it as it is. Same as deleting the policy. If you said I want to enable it and then I want to disable it, you'd actually set it back to disabled, and they will stick after you remove ThreatLocker. So if you've set a config manager policy and want to set it back before you remove the agent.
When it is in force, though, when ThreatLocker is in play, it will check it
every 5 minutes.
every 5
So
minutes.
if someone turns it off, it'll check it and then log that they turned it off. So you will actually get a trigger in the unified audit that say for
Action type configuration?
action type is configuration, yes.
Yeah.
So if I went in here, for example, and said I'm going to configure a screensaver policy. Where's the screensaver? Set password protected screensaver, and I was to set it for 15 minutes. It will come in here and check that this is 15 minutes. If it's not, well, that's a lot of minutes. It will change it to 15 minutes, and then it will report to ThreatLocker that this was changed.
Sweet.
Well, thank you, everybody, and we look forward to seeing you next week. We're coming up to an end. Just a reminder, make sure you're going through the allow listing at this point. You should be blocking on trusted software. We're going to start pulling back and looking at those policies we want to remove from the allow listing soon as well. That's coming up.
Do we have any homework for people this week?
We have this as homework to go and set these policies on their servers, at least on the guinea pig servers, if not some live servers for those smaller accounts. We want to set all of these configuration keys. They will be coming out in an email, so you don't have to remember them all.
Cool.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, everybody, and enjoy the rest of your week.
Thank you, everyone.